welcome to the House of Talk About Life, and this is YouTube and podcast that you can listen to over 30 countries and growing. And we are podcasting from Singapore, live, sunny, humid, warm, but always welcoming to the world. We are at the crossroads of humanity right now, in the middle of vaccination for the world, and what a strange world we are in. And today I am so honored to have industry rock stars, Alessia and Kane as a couple to come on. And I would think that the pandemic has done some good. People have gone through reflections and gratitude, and people have pivoted. People have actually done a lot of soul searching. Welcome, Kane and Alessia, to sunny city-state Singapore. Would you like to say hi to everyone?
Sure. Hi, everyone. We actually love Singapore, and we miss it because of the pandemic, we haven't been able to be back in now over a year.
Yeah, we used to come about every 12 weeks to Asia and tour and present and train. We've trained tens of thousands of business owners from Japan all the way down to Indonesia and everywhere in between. So we miss it.
Yeah, I would have to testify to all the listeners and the viewers, and because Asia is such a place whereby education is so important to alleviate poverty, and as the different countries are powering to a better state of economy in this woke state of everyone, everyone really wants to have a fight in their lives. So, entrepreneurship is so much more important in this era, especially so in this disruptive times we're living in, either with the disruption of AI or the disruption of the pandemic. We're living in very disruptive times. So Kane and Alessia, I would like to tell listeners and viewers, I'd like to introduce them to you personally. They are the industry rock stars, and they are number one as business mentors. And I think I can testify to that, having sit through their classes and having compared their school of thought and the traditional school of thought of entrepreneurship and business, branding and marketing. I can say that, traditional school of thought, I think we should really destroy that, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome Kane and Alessia to the new brave world of disruption. And I think we should really bring on your school of thought about entrepreneurship, about building wealth and chartering your destiny for yourselves in Asia. I mean, the world has changed so much, but today's interview, there's going to be two parts. I would like to ask Kane and Alessia, as entrepreneurs yourselves, as a couple, I'd like you to tell us, what's your best and the worst comeback story? Personal or business?
That's a good question.
This is live, right? I'm talking about my show. This is live. We're talking about your life here.
Yeah. So the our best comeback story, I think, is our pivots that we just did recently, because we're a live seminar. We're transformational. So we take people and we just change the way they think about how they create value in the world, and then we teach them how to package it up, turn it into businesses, and take them from scratch up to 6, 7, 8 figures, right? And so the craziness of just what went on by transitioning from being a live seminar company, which is what we did. We really wanted to be live with people, changing the way or online company. That's been a huge change for us. Even though I've been involved in online businesses for 20 years. We were in Silicon Valley for 22 years and out building tech businesses and service businesses. And it was definitely not a new thing, but it's a totally different thing now than it ever has been.
And the comeback, everyone is trying so hard to scramble a new model. It has brought that competition from brick and mortar to a virtual competition. Do you find, I would like to pose this question before we go into business questions. Alessia, what is your best and your worst comeback story? Personal, relationship, as a couple? Tell us truthfully as women. I know your husband is sitting there.
Well, I think
there's no surprises.
Well, he should know these stories already, I think. But I think our best comeback story as a couple is actually, going through this last year with two young kids.
Tell us, go to the details. Let us learn something.
Well, I was telling you just before we started here, like I was actually pregnant just before the pandemic. It was just a few months old when lockdown started. And so that definitely put a whole different type of kind of dynamic in our house, suddenly having the kids home for a while when the pandemic hit, no help. And at the same time, as a couple that is not just a couple in personal life, but in business as well, we had to manage both our personal life and our business pivoting at the same time. So I think that was really the best how we could actually work together through that time.
Yeah. Could you give us, each of you, like 2 points to take away from learning their experience? What are the 2 factors you think is necessary for a successful comeback?
Sure. Don't have a baby.
Ladies and gentlemen.
And then have a pandemic.
Don't have a pandemic.
Don't have a baby, don't go through a pandemic.
At the same time. It's like, don't get a puppy and have a baby at the same time. That's another one.
Yes.
First one.
What about Alessia? What about the 2 critical success factors in a successful comeback?
Well, I think especially if we talk about, working in a partnership, whether it's with your husband, with, a business partner, with, sometimes it's a family business where you're working with, a friend or a brother. Keeping the flow of communication going and very, very high communication. One thing that I think Kane and I really have that keeps us very strong is the high communication, like hyper communication that we have together. So as we go through highs and lows and, all sorts of stuff in our business and in our life, we can keep actually very aligned because we're constantly communicating and sharing what's happening and what do we want to achieve and really, having that channel open.
Okay, that's point number 1, communication. Point
I'll add
2.
to that actually, if you want the second one, which is, I think, Alessia and I have run combined over 40 companies.
Yeah.
And so we've been doing this since we were young. She started in her first business when she was 19. I started in my first business when I was 19 and a half. So I always remind her I was older than her when I got started.
Which means I started earlier.
Yeah, she started earlier. But I was more mature by 6 months. But and we worked in partnerships. We worked together almost 10 years. But prior to that, we had partnerships, we had family businesses and things. So the thing that I think when you go through chaotic times or crisis, like what we've gone through, you have to actually double down in the commitment. It's a very chaotic time and you start getting
double down on commitment.
Yeah, I mean, you go, well, this is this opportunity, there's that opportunity, maybe we could do this. And, maybe if we did this and you can start to wander. And we actually got even more focused on our vision and our mission and who we were and our brand and our company. Like we doubled down in the
commitment. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, even in the chaos, we still said we're going to stay focused on our vision, even though something might be complex or things are not converting or whatever it is. We were focused, and I think that's very important during times of chaos to stay extremely focused.
I would like to ask Kane, as a husband, listeners out there, what is the one advice? I mean, you talked about commitment, you talked about having focus for the business, and I mean commitment to you are referring to commitment to the family. What is the one more advice you would give to husbands to keep that relationship alive? Yes, you're under the same roof, you're physically there, you're giving the commitment to the child, to the mother, to the family, and also to your business. But what is the one thing that keeps it spiritually alive with that positive energy, with the, that in a prolonged lockdown, and we're talking about 14 months now.
Well, being locked down with this woman in the house for 14 months is not such a bad thing. So, I mean, the advice as a husband, I guess look, this is a complex time. I think anybody that would have said, I got it, or I figured out, they're full of shit. I mean, I think that everybody kind of went through an extremely new experience of life. And we had to kind of understand ourselves more. So I think, it was very complex because suddenly a lot of us were thrust into 24 hours a day, 7 days a week of something different. We have 3 kids. and we're homeschooling, the kids, and
which we would have never thought before the
yeah,
pandemic.
the schools are all closed. They've been closed for almost a year. We were actually in California, Silicon Valley, where everything's been closed since last March.
California, that's the red spot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even just getting a haircut was tough. Getting your nails done. It's like it was just the whole thing. So, I mean, I think that it does come down to sort of being willing to let go. And of course, with those responsibilities, actually I became much more domestic and much more family oriented.
For the first time, right?
Yeah, I mean, I just, even we lost all of our help because you couldn't have help coming in and out of the house, right? Between nannies and babysitters and house cleaners and, cooks or whatever we had going on, right? Everything was gone. So, so, I think it's that willingness to be committed to each facet of your life and rotate it and not have one suffer over the other. I think you have to be willing to be multifaceted.
Yeah. I mean, those are very politically correct statements. What about sex?
Oh yeah, well, shit, if you want to go there, lots of it. Yeah. I mean, the best part about being locked down and being at home is, we used to be on the road 200 days a year. We used to be in live seminars. Now we can have sex morning, night, and evening if we want, right? It's much easier.
Yeah. Okay. We shall go into any takeaway tips from there, because I need time for the second part. But your business is such a high quality business, right? You are always in a boom, boom, boom state, and now it's almost like in a zoom, zoom, zoom state, right? From the boom, 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 go, go, go. I think the lockdown has brought a lot of us to be humbled. Myself, a person of faith, we try to plan our lives ahead, always have this calendar plan, and something that, the whole disruption is totally destroyed your plans, your vision, things that are totally changed. I would like to ask Alessia and Kane, in this pandemic lockdown, how much have you grown as a person? Have you reflected your gratitude? And this is the question I always ask to all my listeners and viewers, especially when I'm doing 30 episodes about the global pandemic, and then another 28 days back-to-back live cast on the global pandemic, interviewing people in lockdown. So I like to ask you, ladies and gentlemen, let's hear that. What is the reflection and the growth, the gratitude or the growth that you have done as a person? Can we hear from you?
Yeah, well, I mean, thing.
Well, I think that it's been a very, very intense experience, and I think that one of the gifts that emerged from that is really like the gift of closeness with the people that you live with your family. I mean, for months, these people have been the only ones we have been able to hang out with. And, I find myself, for example, reflecting. I mean, our daughter is 6 years old, and last March 2020, one day she came home, and that afternoon we received a notice that school would be closed. And we thought it was just for 2 weeks and then maybe for a month. And, it's been closed essentially ever since. And that's kind of led us to start homeschooling her. And of course, it's a very complex journey that you undergo when you decide that. But throughout that, one thing that I've been actually, finding myself thinking is, I would have never have so much time with my daughter. I mean, she is almost 7, and I've been with her essentially all day long this year. And it would never have happened. And I probably will never have that again in the future, because she's, growing into this busy, expressed, beautiful little girl that is, has friends and interests and classes, etc. So it's been actually a beautiful gift. And the same thing, with Kane. I mean, as he was saying, we were traveling so much, and he was traveling for previews, and it was much more difficult to actually spend so much time in each other's presence. So I think that's been really the beautiful growth that we all had, is learning to really appreciate the people around you and kind of cutting down the noise.
Cutting down the noise. Talk about the lockdown in the world. What about Kane? Any two reflection that you have done that had kind of sunk in that we can actually take away also?
Well, I think again, a lot of us went back to our networks because,
Network.
prior there was a lot of new stimulation of opportunities. We'd be out at conferences, we'd be running conferences, we'd be meeting people at masterminds or guys. So there was a lot of stimulation of new opportunities. Once everybody kind of got locked away, I think a lot of us reached out to our friends, and I think a lot of networks opened up. A lot of people that we hadn't talked to, a lot of people, I mean, for those that are listening,
Wonderful.
we got another 6 months to a year of this minimum. Well, from this date forward. And so it's a great time to go back into your networks and your personal connections and call them and, find out what they're doing and see how you can do collaborations. We created more collaborations in the last year than I think we ever have. And, I also, on the other side, we know that by statistics, there was like more divorces in the last year than there had been in the last 10 years.
Yes, in Singapore too.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that the essence of partnership and collaboration got tested and expanded. So if it was the wrong partnership, if it was the wrong collaboration, it blew apart. If it was the right collaboration, the right partnership, it got stronger. And partnerships that one never even thought they would have were getting created. So I think where we grew actually is we got more engaged with our network, even though we couldn't physically get together. We got more engaged than we ever had been with them on projects and collaborations.
Okay, now we're going to the second part of our interview. I've got about like 20 to 30 minutes with you. I'd like to hear from you. You've got like built, ladies and gentlemen, people who are tuning in. We're talking to Alessia and Kane. They've got 40 companies. They're coaching numerous, about 500,000 business owners, entrepreneurs, and also gone to 32 countries. And you've done 20 years of your life on this, and I don't think your face showed the age. But my question is,
it's the Zoom, how it like just fixes all of the
You're right. Okay, you're right. Okay, I've got a couple of questions. You're entrepreneurs, and we have this different schools of thought that even the 101 of business, we're talking about internal control versus external control. Internal control, like an entrepreneur, how much you can really strive for it, like what Anthony Robbins says, how much you can strive for it, and about changing your life, controlling your destiny, and releasing the genius within. And what about the external control, about faith? How God plays a part in your life and about successes in business. I think for me, myself, as a person who's deep in faith, I struggle sometimes on this. What's your take on it to the viewers who are listening? And yourself building the business?
Go ahead.
Okay. So just to be clear on the numbers, we've trained and educated over 3 million people, and you said something about
3 million.
Yeah, we've done 32
So
countries.
that was an old statistic.
Yeah, well, we've had about 600,000 people come through our business events. The rest have come through all sorts of events. We run personal development events. We run speaking events. We've spoken on stages with Tony Robbins and Richard Branson, and then we threw events for them. I mean, we actually co-organized an event in Tel Aviv for Tony, and arranged events with Richard Branson in Singapore. In fact, yeah, we've done a lot in Singapore. Actually, we love bringing great people there because it's just a great audience. People in Asia in general really understand how important education is and investing in themselves outside of the traditional system. So what we tell entrepreneurs is that that if they really want to excel, they really need to understand that their business is a reflection of themselves. So the question is how much do we think is designable? We believe all of it's designable. In fact, our entire company is built upon two things, which is the strategies of what you need to do, but also the foundation of who you are as a person. Leadership, identity, what you believe. It's like coaching combined with consulting. And that's really what's made us, I think, so famous over the years, is that we don't just tackle what to do. We also tackle how do you think. Yeah.
So does faith play a part in your pursuit?
I pray a lot. I pray a lot to Alessia because she makes me food all day long and takes care of me really well when we're at home while we're working. Yeah. I mean, we have a lot of faith in. We're very connection to each other. We really feel like we're soulmates, and we have a connection to the universe as a power there. And I think that we've always felt very capable of manifesting and very aligned with the energy of the universe and our own spirituality and our own consciousness. And that's where we felt the most connected with humanity. I mean, I remember when Alessia gave birth to our two kids, we did it at home, and we did a hypnobirthing. We did all the children were birthed at home. And we didn't do it alone. So don't, you don't have to be scared. Like, we had midwives and nurses there. People was like, were you too lazy? Did you not want to go to the hospital? Like, no, we wanted to do it at home. But one of the things that they say to women in hypnobirthing and in training when you're doing that is to remember all of the women around the world going through birth at the same time and connect to that universal energy to use that strength.
Yeah, that's a very beautiful way of saying. And I've got another question, like, in the pre-pandemic times, we're already seeing all these global MNCs. They are already going into a huge trend of M&A, merging, downsizing, and you've got companies that you've got over, I mean, the last statistics I saw before the pandemic, there were over like 5,000 retailers just closed their stores. With the advent of technology, not only the technology, but people's lives have changed, the income have changed. It's harder for anyone to look for a job. And if there's a traditional job out there, it's out there. I mean, myself as a lecturer before, if it's a job out there, I will tell my students like, okay, no, don't expect to have a job given to you. I mean, those times and those era is already long gone. And then we're talking about pre-pandemic times. And with the pandemic, everything has accelerated, everything is disrupted. So I want Kane and Alessia to tell us, in this very disruptive times when any young person, they are going to seek for a job, or anyone who's being retrenched, they're going to get a job or getting themselves employed. They find themselves like lost, right? And there are lots of tradition. One school of thought is there's a lot of get rich fast schemes online, Bitcoins, etc., etc. And I'm not saying that they're bad, but there's a lot of things that says that, okay, get rich fast, and then therefore you've got this I would call it a fast food Instagram generation that think that hard work and success comes, or I should say success does not come with hard work. But I would like your take on my what I've just said about hard work versus success, traditional model of work versus the new post-pandemic model of work.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I think that, definitely there has been a paradigm shift. The pandemic hasn't just hit us and, locked us home. And then whenever we will open again, everything would be the same. It definitely changed a lot of things, really, in the nature of our connections, of our habits, of, our trust and our the way we take action. So both as consumers and as well, of course, as business owners. So if I would need to, to your, your example, like, there are a lot of young people that are looking for a job. I would definitely, work with them on helping them understand that they each have a gift. And, while they get rich quick situation can be a little bit of a dream that, they might actually have to wake up to, like there is more to that. But at the same time, like, they each have a gift. And right now, as we have said for many, many years, like, job security is totally a myth. The only possibility is for them to actually work with their talents, invest in themselves, and create something that they will be able to leverage, creating assets for themselves. So creating a business, they're really understanding how money works, how building wealth works, how investing works, etc. And to your point, like hard work versus success, I'm not sure I believe in hard work per se. I think that it's more like really inspired work. Like when you are on the right track, you can feel it. And it's not like, people don't work. Everybody has a business, we have worked, we work, we will work, but we do it because we have a vision. We have, we actually want to do it. Both Kane and myself have been, in the position to be able to be retired very young, but we do what we do because we love what we do. And we feel like we are actually pursuing our mission. And so for young people, I think that's very important, because when you actually get onto the right track, you will be working, but you will be working with a complete different energy and relationship to the work that you do.
Yeah, and you know, I would like Kane's take on this. You know, Robert Kiyosoki has said many times that traditional education is divorced from reality, right? And you know, as schools are now relooking, you know, post-pandemic, reimagining education, and that's what Singapore is looking at right now. Big topics at the ministry about reimagining education, traditional education, reimagining university education. You know, there is such a big, I mean, when the crisis hits, right, then you realize that, hey, we are not prepared for the crisis. We're not prepared for reality. What do you say to the traditional mode of teaching, the traditional school of thought about, you know, coming up with prototypes? You know, we've got the accountants, we've got the engineers, and with all respect for that, because I've got my degrees and I've got 68 pages of my certificates, but you know, in these times like this, disruptive times, we cannot predict what comes next, even in the next month. You know, we can't even predict if we're going to live. So what do you say about, you know, education being divorced from reality? And how does your model fit into something like this, that, hey, let's talk about reality. Let's face the reality, and let's survive and thrive in reality.
Yeah, so so my family actually took on this conversation. I'm 42, would have been 42 years ago. My parents actually have a patent in child development, brain development for children, because they actually saw this problem going on a long time back. And there's a whole story that I won't share about with my sister that spawned their attention to how messed up the traditional education system is.
Messed up.
But so we think the traditional education system is a disaster. And I don't mean that by the people that are involved. I think the people involved they're very well meaning. I think that they care deeply and they're bright and they're trying, but I just think the whole system is defunct. And that you can have, you know, a great race car driver get in a car that just doesn't work, and they can never achieve what they're trying to achieve just because the system it's just not the right system. So I don't see it as broken. I just see it's the wrong system for what people are trying to achieve. If you want to learn entrepreneurship, you don't learn to go play tennis. They're just different things. And to think that you can learn to play tennis and then become a great entrepreneur is about as, although that's obviously ridiculous, that's about how we look at, you know, traditional school. And one of the interesting experiences that we had during this pandemic is that when we have a 11-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 2-year-old now. And when the pandemic started, we had 10, 5, and 1, whatever. But the 5-year-old, when she was transitioned to online Zoom school, it just didn't work for her. And so she was in pre-kindergarten, I think, at the time.
She was.
And so you know, obviously we care deeply about our kids and their education, that's what our #1 investment in ourselves all year long is our own education, our own mentors, our own consultants, our own mastermind groups. Which is, you know, we just got back from San Diego from a mastermind group, and we're going to another one, you know, in a week, because we're always looking to learn and be around great people. So Alessia said, well, look, I'll back out a little bit from the business right now, and I want to, you know, spend the time working with our daughter. Our older son was comfortable on Zoom, and our younger son was not involved in school yet. So anyway, so in the 6 months that Alessia was kind of, you know, finding curriculum and working with her person, all that, she went from a preschool level to almost a 2nd grade level in different things. In fact, she's listening to books right now that are built for 7th grade level, 7th and 8th grade level. She listens to them on books. You know, she's picked up a new language. She's already bilingually fluent, and she's picking up a 3rd language. I mean, she also had time for other athletics. So she's become an avid figure skater in 2 months and a gymnast. And we just realized that, you know, even though we knew it and we teach it and we talked about it and we've known our whole life, to really see that in our own children, we understood. And I think the biggest mistake everybody makes is they focus on the wrong level of education to really make a difference. So you're not going to make a difference with people in university. It's too late. What's going on right now is our 11-year-old saying, I want to start a business now. And it's not just him, all of his friends. You know, we see kids in their pre-teens and their teenage years saying, I want to learn how to make money. I want to learn how to manage my money, run a business. I want to learn how to use the internet. And even our daughter, who's 6 years old, with her private tutor now, they created slime, you know, just from a science perspective. And now they're packaging up and looking at how to sell it. And so to me, entrepreneur teachers, not I mean, the number one problem is you're getting taught by people who are employees, so they can't teach you how to think like out of the box thinking. And entrepreneurs, they don't know themselves, and they do the best job they can, but they don't know it themselves. It's like going to a mechanic to learn how to do surgery.
No, I totally agree with you. Like, going to a class and listening to a professor talking about entrepreneurship. I mean, it's like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to sit into a class and listen to you when you have not been through the fire and come out like a phoenix. So, I would like to hear a couple of more questions, so to take another 5 minutes from you, because I know your time is valuable. And my videos are watched by the ministers, because I know I was an educator before. I would like to hear, like, if now you're invited to give an explanation or a pitch to actually revamp and reimagine traditional education. So, because we know that traditional education in this pandemic times have failed us, right? Have failed us. And also through a lot of things like what Elon Musk has said, if you get a university degree, I mean, it doesn't prove anything at all, which is right. I mean, a lot of people can't survive out in the world right now. It just gets you a foot in the outside world. I would like you to hear from Kane or Alessia, like if you were to be invited to be a panel of advisor to take on to like changing the traditional educational system that Singapore is so proud of, in traditional way, just coming up with people that to get the goal, right? Always getting hundreds for spelling, for the spelling bee, getting the 100 and getting the awards and all this, but in this disruptive times, we're talking about different things. A spiritual acumen, a business acumen that goes beyond just learning the root. What would you say, Kane and Alessia, if you have this platform that says that, hey, let's reimagine education, let's implement my successful model into it and make people successful? What are the things that you would say?
Well, I mean, again, if there is something that the last year has taught us, I mean, again, we knew that, we thought that, we kind of shared those thoughts even before, but the last year has been like a practical experience, really, really intense, just like for many other people. It's been that, even inside our household, having, we have 3 kids, but really 2 that are going through education right now. Again, the last one is a little bit too young. And even here, being in the same, household, coming from the same environment and listening to the same conversations all day long, these 2 kids are as different as they can be, both in their, in the methodology that they like to engage, in the way they learn best, in the things they actually excel and they're passionate about. And so I feel like the traditional education, one of the problems is that it tries to fit everybody into a box. And instead of teaching kids and therefore then people to actually know themselves and think for themselves, they teach them to be like circus animals, like,
circus animals.
Yeah, they respond to certain stimulus in a certain way and they get praises for that. But, they can actually show off a test. They can repeat a poem. They can, show, but really it's empty inside.
You hit the nail on the head. You hit the nail.
I mean, what happens during the pandemic is that the box gets removed. There is no box anymore. Like, we don't even know, as you say, what happens tomorrow. And so everybody that has learned to perform a little task repeatedly, like that's how I am a good contributor, just by doing this thing over and over. They find themselves without actually any container anymore. So they say, it's just like the circus is gone. So now what do I do? How do I, like, who am I? How do I contribute when there is nobody telling me what to do? So I think that that's the main thing. I mean, for our kids, has been really discovering their strengths and getting to know themselves. And by removing them from the educational system, especially our 11-year-old who has been inside the educational system longer, it has taken him, a few months to actually be able to start to connect with his own passion, his own interests, etc. Because he was so used to being told what to do at any given time and what to do in order to actually get that experience of being good and of actually, being praised for a behavior. So it's taken some time to actually undo that and help him discover instead how to be himself and be proactive.
So you have actually observed that and consciously kind of fine-tuned that change, which of course in a big massive engine or a big massive machine like in a country, it's really hard for an individual or a system, right, to actually change it to be an individualistic, tailored, customized kind of education. I mean, this is
the main thing is really shifting from actually putting the focus and really putting the value on the performance to putting the value on teaching them how to think. And as well, again, as we said before, like bringing experts into the into the school. Like if they are teaching entrepreneurship, bringing entrepreneurs. If they are teaching like whatever, like the kids need to be actually connected with the real world, not with somebody that is kind of like a gatekeeper to the real world.
So this is the fundamental problem with traditional education that I'm saying, and these are brilliant observations. It's funny because we talk about this all day long, but when we get interviewed, it's actually lovely to hear some of her perspectives because they come out differently. And she's never said that before. That was brilliant. But this is the fundamental thing that I believe won't ever changes. When you go through school, you're given a system and they say this is how it works. And so kids learn that there's a system of how it works, and they don't learn that they can create their own system for how things work. And so I think that there's no point in trying to, if we were going to pitch the ministry, I wouldn't say let's try to change or fix the educational system. I don't think it's not a possibility. I think that there's other things that could be more valuable, which is let's stop wasting the kids' time with subjects that are really not that important as adults. I mean, I'm sorry, but we spend a lot of time inside of certain math or sciences or history or things that really just are not that important. And comedians all over the world will make jokes about how we learn a whole bunch of stuff that we don't care about. Adults will tell you how much stuff they learn that they don't ever use or care about. And I think the old approach of making a well-rounded human being has essentially created all these academic studies that nobody cares about. If somebody really wants to study the history of Western civilization, they'll do that on their own. But I think there's more important things like managing money, being creative, leadership, social skills. And those are the things that should be getting started in early stage elementary schools and building up, because those are the skills that are actually important. And the other stuff people can now research if they're interested in it. If somebody loves art, or if they love, I don't know, if they love chemistry, or they love things, and we went through very top universities and very top academic backgrounds, but I always would say, I mean, I dropped out of 2 universities. Although I went to top universities, I studied electrical engineering, and then I went to a top music school called Berkeley. But I went and I said, this is what I want to learn. I ignored the classes that they said, you have to take these for your degree. And I said, I don't care about my degree. I want to learn what I want to learn. And then I'm going to go apply that with what I want to do in my life. And at 20 years old, I ended up starting a company. And the one thing that I think they need to teach that kids don't get out of school is they learn that there's this absolute system and they go to school to learn. It's not true. You find mentors to learn. School gives you exposure to things. In our trainings, we expose people to principles and ideas and concepts that we have decoded. But then if they really want to get results, they need to go find people. And the one thing school never says is, hey, when you get out of here, you're going to go hire an endless amount of consultants and advisors and mentors. You're going to go try to find the best people in the world to get them on your team for the rest of your life. Nobody ever said that. So we think we get to a school and then we're done. We're educated and we're going to go make something of ourselves. And it's absolutely not true. You actually know nothing about life. And you then need to go find experts and great people and get them on your team. So we're just missing a lot of these values and these lessons in traditional education that make all the difference.
And I think you've said it beautifully, Kane and Alessia, particularly about traditional schools. And also you said something earlier on in the beginning that, it's too late by the time someone has gone to the university. And it's too late if someone is now in the mid of pandemic, and they find themselves like out of a job. It is already too late for them to reinvent themselves. It is so hard for someone.
It makes no sense to teach kids about money because they never go to university, because they understand that the return on the investment for university makes no sense. You start training kids in concepts of like return on investment and money and entrepreneurship early on, you're going to find that kids don't go to
investments. Yeah,
they're going to go find specialists in their area.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's actually what we have designed our kids' education around now. So what we do is we hire them specialists in areas. They focus on those, and then they spend their days doing things that they love to do, whether it's sports, whether it's social stuff, whether it's entrepreneurship. Like, we want to train them that a majority of their day should be doing the things that they're passionate about. Achieving, we're very big on achievement. We're competitive. We train them to be competitive and achieve at the highest levels. But if that's in dance, if that's in singing, if that's in, something somatic or something language oriented, it's not what school tells you to achieve at. It's not because you can get a better score on a math test.
Right. I mean, I think at the core, the difference between the traditional school and what we actually designed and what we see actually working is that instead of focusing on specific, especially very early, there is this over focus on specific, skills that they need to be mastered. And again, they need to be proved on tests, etc. And they need to do homework. While one thing that we've seen is that when any activity actually fosters that love for learning, I mean, we know now that we are never done with learning. Again, look at what happened this year. Even having, a very established company and, 20 years of experience in entrepreneurship, we found ourselves having to actually learn new systems, learn new ways to actually run our company, learn new way to do partnerships, learn new ways to serve our markets, completely new. Learning is never ending. And so the idea is that I think we should actually foster that love for learning, so that anything that comes up over the course of their life that they want to learn, they actually have that positive connection, that enthusiasm, that confidence that they can actually learn it successfully, because they have learned that, they've learned a system for learning, not so much the specific notion. I mean, I don't think it's that important what age do they start, like, do they learn to read, or what age. I mean, to a certain extent, like, as adults, who knows what age you, Vicky, started to learn to read, or what age Kane started to read.
It was very early.
It doesn't make any difference as adults. What makes a difference is learning a successful way to approach learning, so that as life changes and new situations are thrown at you, you have a system to actually be able to take on whatever new journey you decide to take on confidently and with a good system to actually succeed at that.
Yeah, I like the point whereby you say, you are competitive parents, and obviously you are, right? And I mean, we're talking about very competitive people in Asia, people who are very multi-talented, multitaskers, always trying to compete. This is a place whereby it is overpopulated. If you want to go up there, you need to compete through the ranks.
But there's a value system that's very difficult for people around entrepreneurship, and it's failure. So the values in Asia, because we've spent now almost 10 plus years training tens of thousands of business owners, coming there constantly, having offices there, having meals, dinners. Like, we're not Asian, obviously, but we've spent, I think, almost more time in that culture than almost any other culture outside of our own culture. And there's just this, pride, like, can I fail? Like, what are my parents going to think? And, all these, like, and those values need to start to get transitioned.
Okay.
Right. And so one of the things that I think could be spent more time on, if you want to talk about education, is to educate parents about how to engage. See, the biggest challenge with parents is they think that they know the way their kids should grow up, and they don't. They have no idea. And so although, I guess their job is to make sure that their children, I mean, we look at, actually, as parents, we have two jobs: make sure they stay alive and make sure they eat, which maybe kind of comes into the same thing, right? That's it. Everything else is like, just optional gravy. It's, and so parents they constantly disrupt their children's lives in the exploration of who they are and what they need to express in the world. And they create this little, beaten up soul, crushed soul.
Yes. And this is
they just
something that I
push it.
wanted to ask. Like, you have such a system now. There's two, what has been thrown out there, the school of thought about the tiger moms and the tiger dads. It's a very Asian it's a very Asian concept. And how, especially so in very competitive Asia, Singapore is competing, Japan, China, we're always at the top two of the OECD pizza ranking in the world. You put the 15-year-olds into this hot housing, and then you make them beat them up and all. What's your thought on these tiger moms, tiger dads, and tiger schools that they do want the students to come through a very stringent systems. I would call it the classical systems. It's very stringent systems, and yet they make it as doctors. And yet, of course, these are what Robert Kiyosoki hates most, to say, okay, these are the people, they are the poor dads. So, how do you as parents now balance between making your kids really competitive? And if they would slacken and if they say, no, mom, I just want to be an artist. I want to be a poor artist that is just like drawing on the sidewalk of a Paris cafe or on the Rome's cafe on the floor. I mean, how do you as parents balance that? You want to be competitive, but yet there's this other thing about, being the tiger, dad's tiger mom, that, the pitfall of that, the control.
I mean, as parents, I think there is a very important, distinction, which is that, we have our life and the things that we might have achieved, we might have wanted to achieve and maybe missed. And then there is our kids' life. And a lot of parents try to make things right in their life through their kids.
Yes.
And so they try to actually achieve things that they haven't been able to achieve themselves through their kids, putting a lot of responsibility on these kids because, they actually with all the little conversation of, you have so many more opportunities than I had when I was a child. And if I would have had your opportunities, maybe I would have made it.
Yes.
The reality is that they actually put a lot of responsibility on these kids. So, as parents, it's very important to do your own work and work on yourself and understanding, again, you asked at the beginning of this interview, the best comeback story and the worst comeback story. And as we was thinking about that, I thought, I can't think about the worst comeback story, because the reality is that every story, even the stories, even the failures, actually the failures more than, the successes many times, taught us something. It was an opportunity to actually learn and to really, get us closer to where we wanted to come. But for a lot of people, they don't see that. So they see their failures as failures. And then they looked at their kids and say, I need to make sure that they don't make these mistakes, that they don't go through it. I need to make sure that they succeed in what I failed on. And this is, I think, a very important thing that they need to learn, that, there are two different things, there are two different people. Now, in terms of being competitive, we're very competitive for sure. And one of the values that we share with the kids is that it doesn't matter what they decide to do, but they owe it to themselves to do whatever they decide to do at a very high level, a very high quality, being a contributor in the world at a high level. It doesn't matter whether they decide to be an artist, they can be great contributors to the world as an artist. They can be great contributors
just excelling
as dancers, and just like they can be as bankers if that's what they want to do. But whatever they decide to do it with a mission, and really do it, in a very invested way, not just casually. That's one of the distinctions we actually share with them. Like, whatever you do it with, your whole heart and your whole commitment, as we were saying before, like double up on the commitment and really, make sure you understand how you can take that to the next level. And then it doesn't really matter what they do.
Yeah, just being excelling in the things that you've decided to do, that you put your heart and your soul to excel in a particular space. And I like what Kane has said earlier about crushing the spirit. I feel that, as now we evaluate, myself as an educator for 20 years, as now I'm coming out from the educational system, being and two sides of the coin now, I think what traditional education does is that it kind of wants all this, even in a governmental system, in any country, they just want the kids to put their heads down, keep quiet and do their work and not make a noise. I think that's the objective of every paid educator. Like, you come into the class and don't make your noise and just put your heads down. And that's how I see Asia is coming up. If everyone
you need to look at the system's motivations.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying, like, there's no point in trying to revamp or reimagine the traditional system. It just doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
And part of it is if you get in deeper into it, you're trying to correct the surface stuff, like what should we teach or what should we do.
Yeah.
But the entire system is driven by motivations and values that don't make any sense. So they're businesses. The schools are businesses.
Yeah.
They need to show marks, statistics. They need to show data. So the organization is driven around demonstration of certain achievement. The values in the room, just like in businesses. In business, we know that it's more valuable to work with our top tier people and make them the most successful than to spend time with the lower tier people.
Okay, yes.
The classic error that entrepreneurs
let the ducks be the ducks. Let the eagles be the eagles.
They spend time with their strugglers to try to make them better, when the best value is to spend time with the already pretty great, make them extraordinary. And in school, they can't do that. You take a student who's already excelling well in the subject, they ignore them. And they start to focus on those that are struggling with the subject. That's who gets the most attention. So the entire design of the system just will never work. And so that's what I'm saying, that I think that instead of trying to correct the system, we need to just enter in earlier stage skills and values that are different, which is make sure that you are doing things you're happy about. Make sure you're doing the things you love. Because again, from a parental system, parents, especially in Asia, but it's not just in Asia, I love how, we go across, we mention people from 80 countries, and we've done so many millions of people that have, and probably literally hundreds of thousands that come up to us and have conversations over the years, shaking their hands, in all sorts of different cultures and countries, and thousands of telephone calls and meetings and Zoom meetings with students and clients and people across the world. Everybody thinks that it's specific to their culture, their issue, Asians are like this. And it's not, it's really everybody. And there's maybe some slighter intensity, but the New Yorkers, my friends who grew up in New York, I grew up in Chicago, here in the States. Parents there are insanely competitive. They want their kids in school. They're having tutors on the weekends and after school education programs, and they want their kids competing for the top spots. And of course, we're a very mixed society here. America is, nobody's American. Everybody's here from all over the world. So we have, we're competing against, students from Asia here in the States. So it's a very competitive environment. But the point is that the values of the parent drive the thing. And the question is how are you measuring success? And we measure success differently. Alessia and I both grew up in very wealthy families. We've always been surrounded by wealth. We've been millionaires since we were in our 20s. And so we just don't measure success by money. We don't see you go through school to get great marks, to get into a great university in order to get a great job, in order to make more money. Like, who gives a shit? We don't care, because you can't take your money with you. And so to us, the people that have spent their lives looking at what makes a human life worth living, which is definitely like someone like Tony or someone like us, or even people that you don't really know. This woman who wrote the book called The 5 Regrets of the Dying. And she said that the biggest regrets that humans were making is that they didn't live the life they wanted. They didn't take their time. I mean, I just say at the end of our lives, and I think that's for our children, what are they going to reflect upon? Are they going to reflect upon how much money they made? Or are they going to reflect upon how fulfilled they were? And they don't need to be mutually exclusive. You don't need to have a fulfilling life and be broke. It's this old adage of you'll be a broke artist. I was a very highly paid artist. I was a record producer for Sony. I was a performing artist. And to this day, if I'm going to go perform or do music or anything, I'll get paid more than anybody I know. And so this adage of you have to either do what you love and get paid nothing, or do traditional stuff and get paid, is really what we break. And Alessia and I, over the last 10 years, since we've had so many people, so many brains that we've picked, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people personally, our next book is actually on exactly that. Is what is the identities and the psychology that's going on for people since they're getting trained by employees and in traditional systems and traditional thinking. What are the breakthroughs that they have to have? We gave a lecture on this a couple of years back at Harvard, and we started to share some of that science that we're going to be publishing in our next book, which is becoming the foundation of our seminars and our workshops, which is probably why you liked it so much, because we don't just talk about what you need to do. We're talking about the breakthroughs that you have to have.
And I like your sister. Isn't your sister or sister-in-law?
I like my sister as well. Well, she's not a sister-in-law to me.
She's my
no, I mean, both of you plus her. I mean, she's power. I mean, she's fierce. Yeah. I mean,
well, and so Corey she is power. She was our CEO, and then she's now founded a product-based company where she's helping product business owners, and we're working with her on that as well. And the point is that she's actually an amazing story for this, because she was told at 7 or 8 or 9 years old in the traditional school system that she was not smart enough to ever really achieve anything extraordinary by teaching.
And that kind of crushes the spirit. And that is something that I think, to echo you 100% and 101%, is that, you know, the traditional system just crushes you. It just, I mean, and it stops you from thinking about yourself. It just wants you to be one of the prototypes that comes out from the system. It makes the job easy, right?
To tie that story together, she was told she would never really achieve. She was told she'd never be able to go to university. She was told she'd never be significant in anything. And she went on to launch 100 brands across the world and do $1 billion in sales in these brands. So the traditional system has really no idea what they're talking about. It's all good-meaning people, smart people that mean well, but the system doesn't work. So that's why you have people like us. So we've spent our last 20 years decoding the systems that do work and the people that have been rebels and renegades and wanderers and gypsies, and you know that's who we are, and that's who we cater to. My favorite line from any movie is when they interviewed Queen, Freddie Mercury, and they said, "Why you guys?" And they said, "Because we're a bunch of misfits playing to the misfits in the room," and that's kind of who we are as entrepreneurs. We're a bunch of misfits, never fit in anywhere, never did, and we talk to those who never fit anywhere.
Goes up,
the rebels, the renegades, the gypsies, the wanderers, the thinkers, the dreamers. That's who finds us, because they want to understand how to have a powerful life, you know, with that kind of thing.
Yeah. So to wrap this up, thank you so much. You know, I would like to make my final comment. You know, they're developing the vaccines, right? About the RNA. You know what? Can they kind of extract some of your DNA and put in there? Okay, last 15 seconds, Alessia and Kane, to say anything and to say goodbye. And thank you so much, guys. Last 15 seconds.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you very much. And we hope that this message and your message continues to make a huge difference all over the world for people.
Yeah, and I'm looking, in fact, you know, not to let you go so fast, I'm really looking to have a collaboration with you in Singapore or Asia. I'm looking to collaborate with having this regional, sending the video for a pitch over the Zoom. You're sending the videos, and you know, you guys can be judges, part of the panel or part of the collaboration. I thank you so much, industry rock stars, and ladies and gentlemen, rock stars they are. Kane and Alessia, thank you so much, and let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you.
So all the best to you, and may the whole world, mankind, cross over the chasm safely, and may the world see a brand new kind of emergence of humanity that comes out. Thank you, Kane and Alessia.
Thank you so much, Vicky.
Thank you,
Bye.
Vicky.
Thank you.